Bada bing, bada boom. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube. I hope you're all having a fantastic Thursday, August 12th. But brace yourself, ladies and gentlemen, because tomorrow is literally Friday the 13th. I know it comes every year, but just you can't be more careful. So we're going live today. I'm not going live tomorrow because I will be boarding up all the windows, making sure I'm prepared for the zombie apocalypse. Thank you all for tuning in. We're talking about AirTags today. Speaking of the zombie apocalypse, where all of society and civilized man falls apart and starts stealing each other's things, AirTags were actually used recently to help someone track down their stolen item, which I found a very interesting story that I wanted to dive into today, mostly because Apple intentionally has designed AirTags to not be good at tracking people, and even particular not letting you track items that are stolen very much. It was kind of a controversial decision that a lot of people were upset about, because a lot of people thought, half the reason someone would get a geo-tracking device or they would get an AirTag is simply so they could track someone down if someone stole their device or that type of thing. But they realized that could be abused very easily for, stalker type situations, if you're just like throwing AirTags in people's bags or attaching it to people's cars or something without them knowing. And they didn't want to take that risk. They didn't want that possibility of AirTags being abused so easily. So they've decided that AirTags will basically notify, especially if you're leaving your AirTag, if you're no longer in range of your AirTag and it's now being carried by someone else with an iPhone, they will get a notification that says there's an AirTag traveling with you. And basically, I think it even starts making noise. But Scott, I think, has already seen it. It was reported on by 9to5Mac. That's how I heard of it. But it was mainly done by Dan Guido. Sorry, I don't know the last name. I'll just call him Dan for simplicity's sake. But he said, that story made me consider taking the AirTag on the outside of my bag and stick it inside instead. Yeah, I think that's not a terrible idea, to be honest with you. But I still think it's a really fun story, which is why I wanted to read it and go through it, because I thought it was a whirlwind. So I'll be going into the tweet storm here, and you guys can follow along with me. Oh, dang. OBS taking up too much space. Let me move this. There. Okay. So Dan says his scooter was stolen last week, but he hid 2 AirTags inside it. So this was kind of a big brain move. I thought this was kind of genius of him, because he knew that there was a good chance someone would get notified if Dan's going against Apple's wishes here and saying, like, okay, someone might get a notification that an AirTag is on them. And he knows that they might get that notification that says, hey, you've taken some AirTag and it's coming along with you. And he figured, I'll outsmart the thief. He puts 2 AirTags in his scooter. That way, if someone thinks, oh man, there's an AirTag, I got to get it off this thing after I stole it, they'll find a blatant decoy, basically AirTag, thinking they got rid of it, and then suddenly throw that away, and then they're like, haha, sweet, I'm all good, I got rid of the AirTag. All About Tech is annoyingly spamming it's pre-recorded, which, yes, it is. This is all done pre-recorded. I'm just extremely good at guessing everyone's questions. The theft occurred on Monday night, went out to dinner and locked it to a grate with motorcycle handcuffs, which is kind of cool. I didn't know that was a thing. But I find them easier to use than a cable lock. Forgot to lock one cuff. It was gone after 2 hours, so that was quick. That didn't take long. But I guess apparently this was where it was stolen, because that's the picture attached. He said the most important part of IR's preparation, and I hid 2 AirTags inside the scooter, one decoy in the wheel well, and a second, more subtle, inside the stem, and he covered it with black duct tape. I thought this was pretty clever, because this is another situation where I wish AirTags came in more color options that could blend in more easily. Also, I haven't heard this story with the Find My compatible e-bikes, which Apple talked about. Actually, before AirTags were announced, they said that there was going to be a couple of e-bikes out there that you could they have the technology to be picked up by the Find My network inherently. You don't have to slap an AirTagger in there. It's just part of the design. He had to catch a flight, bike to where the scooter was located with an extra lock, hoping he would see it on the street and lock it to the nearest. He asked NYPD to meet him at the nearest street corner, but they were resistant. They weren't familiar with AirTags. I thought it might be enlisting them to steal something. I thought this was I wish I could be in this situation to see how this conversation went down, because I've often wondered this too, if someone stole your phone or if someone stole something with an AirTag. And now you know where it is, but it's inside someone's residence and someone else has taken it or whatever. If you went to the police and explained to them that, like, hey, someone stole my thing, it's located at this address. Like, how do they know that you're the rightful owner necessarily? Which they get into in a little bit, but still, I just like seeing with the police, and I like the idea that the NYPD was like, an air what? What are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. No, trust me, I put this is my scooter. It's like, sure, right. He says, I couldn't find his precise location and left thinking it was in these apartments. He boarded his flight, expecting never to see the scooter again. He talks about the push notification thing that I detailed. Basically, anti-stalker measure prevents AirTags from being very good at finding anything that gets stolen. Let's see. The AirTags didn't move for the whole week. I thought up a new game plan to recover it as soon as I got off my red-eye flight this morning. First stop, 79th Precinct, to try convincing the cops to help me again. So they didn't want to help him, but afterwards they were like, afterwards Dan was like, oh, let's give this a shot. But there it shows up on the map, which is clearly not where he left it. So the plot thickens, basically. He encountered resistance. Go back to where it was stolen and call 911. That's not our precinct. We can't help you if it's inside a residence. I'm not familiar with your voodoo magic. I guess AirTags, with how insanely well they work, I kind of understand why someone would consider them voodoo magic. But anyway, hope you're captivated. Hey, Loner Boy. Hey, Ray Day. How's everyone? How's all our members doing? Joe Tommy, Marngel, Reese Cup. Man, we got Unreal Cousins, all the members showing up today. Thank you, guys. Maybe they should Google AirTags. I know. Would it be that complicated? Nah, they don't have that kind of time. With a willing two-man patrol and me in the back seat, we drove to the current location. Oh, he's mentioned up here that I was patient, upbeat, and demonstrated that the AirTags on my keys, I reiterated I didn't want them to do anything illegal to help me, made a joke about it only costing $800, so it's no felony, and instead would get solved within an hour. So basically, if you can convince the cops that this isn't going to take much time, they're like, okay, sounds good, if it only takes an hour. So two-man patrol and me in the backseat, we drove to the current location, pointed out the apartments, and then it dawned on all of us, there's an e-bike store directly next door. So my guess is, obviously, is the thief took it and sold it to the e-bike place or whatever. He received the ultra-wideband ping as he walked in the door, and it said it was 13 feet away. I gestured to keep walking. It's here. The store was unkempt with piles of scooters. There was not a single new scooter in the store, so these were probably a bunch of used ones, likely a lot of stolen ones, unfortunately. Every item on sale was secondhand. Seconds later, I walked right into it. My scooter. The employees were in disbelief. How did I know it was mine? I played sounds from an AirTag. See, this is another big complaint or criticism I could see people having, is if you walked in to a secondhand scooter store or anything really, secondhand bike store or something like that, and you just, without the employees knowing, if you dropped an AirTag in something, and they didn't buy it firsthand, right? It's not like a brand new bike or scooter or whatever. You could come in there and you were sold to it by some stranger. Don't let me give you any ideas, okay? Don't do this. I'm just saying it's a potential danger of the story. You could go in, sneak an AirTag in something, and then walk in later with the pinging and say, hey, I located this. I don't know if whether or not the cops were with them makes a big difference, or maybe this place just had so many scooters they didn't care. But he says, yeah, the employees were like, how do you know it's yours? And he played a sound from the AirTag. That wasn't good enough, I guess. So he paired it to the 9bot iOS app, and this convinced the last holdouts. So I guess pairing them with this specific app that works with the e-bike is what helped them convince, like, okay, well, if he can pair it with that, it's got previous data there. So that's probably a good way around it. But I could still see someone abusing that technology. Yeah, I know. It's hilarious to me that people still don't know what AirTags are, but it makes sense. it's a new. We're in the tech community here, so we know about all kinds of stuff when it's early. One mechanic started making excuses for the current state of it. The woman who brought it in had complained about the brakes, so he cut the power line to the handlebars and then removed them. This is not how to repair. I like how that's not related to the story, but he's like, that's not how you do it, by the way. The cops start asking questions. Do you sell used e-bikes? Do you collect info from the seller? Do you ask they prove ownership? What is the contact info for the person who dropped the scooter off? No, and we don't know. It's at this point that I noticed there were cameras indoors. In hushed tones, I excitedly told the cops, ask for video from last Tuesday at noon. As I walked the scooter outside, I further reiterated, they'll delete it if you don't get video now. This is just getting really thick. Everyone's really convinced this guy's trying to steal some bike. Employee inside realizes we're investigating further. He immediately becomes agitated. I should be happy I got my scooter back and leave. It's my fault for getting it stolen. I'm screwing up his day. Like, yeah, your bike was stolen. That's your fault. How dare you? That's all on you. I move outside while one cop retrieves the evidence. He immediately, oh yeah, this isn't how we do things in Brooklyn. How to win friends and find things to agree with him. To their credit, the employees not harassing me outside cooperated and provided the video. It's a woman, and they claim she didn't leave a phone number. I filed out a report of the precinct. My 2 patrolmen get a parade of high fives from their peers. No one can remember the last time they solved an e-bike crime, which honestly made me laugh as well to think that, like, yeah, there's probably a bunch of stuff that gets stolen, and there's really nothing anyone can do about it. It's very difficult to prove ownership, let alone track them down when there's so many of them flooding with cities. But here's what you shouldn't do with AirTags, but his advice if you do want to use AirTags to track stolen items. Please don't abuse this. But keep in mind, Apple does not recommend this, and they actively encourage people to not use them to track stolen items. But he said, here are a few lessons I learned if you're using AirTags for theft recovery. Use an AirTag adhesive that blends in and muffles noise. It's clear my thief was looking for them. Do not turn on lost mode. It immediately alerts the thief they're being tracked. So that's another thing. That's kind of weird. It's like your bike gets stolen, but don't turn on lost mode, even though that's what your natural instinct would be. That gives it away. Act quickly before the anti-stalking feature kicks in. Damage done to my handlebars was likely in response to the regular noises from the AirTag. And limit your in-person interactions and always involve the police. Don't try to retrieve your stolen goods until you have backup. So that's another probably red flag people should be aware of. Is just like, yeah, if you just show up to someone's house and you claim that the AirTag's on the inside or whatever, I don't believe you have legal grounds to just enter the house or try to break in yourself or something. So that's why he said always involve the police. But Dan, what a great story. Thanks for sharing that with us. He's the CEO of Trailbits. But I appreciate the whole document. That's by far of all the AirTag stories I've heard. Another good one was the mailing the AirTags to Apple. Apple sent back a letter, I think, afterwards. But still, thought it was really fun to watch. And we got some super chats here I got to catch up with. But my live stream chat's all delayed. Let me open it up here. Josh LaRose says, I've heard creeps sticking AirTags in people's bags, purses to stalk them. Ever hear of that? Creepy as heck. Yeah, I think that was pretty much exactly what Apple was afraid of, and that's why they put the anti-stalking methods in. If you're going in a public place, I would certainly recommend checking your stuff. So I'm glad that they don't let anyone just drop AirTags on anything and just say like, oh, okay, now you can track that. It's good. It's overall probably the right call that they make it ping someone else's device and that type of thing. So it's very creepy, yes, but I think Apple did the best they could with it. Corbin Tomberry or Thornberry, I think. What tips do you have for me to get the best battery life on my upcoming iPhone 13 Pro Max? Okay, well, I don't know. But what is the best tips? Suppose low battery mode? Keeping the brightness lower. Ooh, turn off 5G. That's something I recommend with just like most phones as a whole, especially the 12 mini. But 5G does not result in that much faster speeds, in my opinion. The speeds, from what I've seen, are pretty dang similar with 4G versus 5G. 5G might be slightly faster in certain circumstances, but in other ones I've often seen 5G be slower. I don't know how common that is now that we're getting more low-band 5G more widespread, but overall, 5G is a huge battery drain. Also, the 13 Pro Max is probably going to have 120 hertz refresh rate. Now, luckily, it's an LTPO OLED panel, which means the refresh rate will dynamically change depending on what you're doing, so that kind of helps preserve battery life. But similar to the iPad Pro, what's the menu things you got to go through? Let me see. I got my iPad right here, so I'm just going to go settings, display. Oh, no, it's not in display settings. I think it's in accessibility, actually. Settings, accessibility, motion, and then within accessibility and motion, there's a toggle that says limit frame rate, and it sets the maximum frame rate of the display to 60 seconds. Ooh, it looks disgusting. I can tell right away that it's 60. Oh, that's better. Okay, so I leave that off all the time, but I'm not sure how much battery life that saves, but I have to imagine if the display isn't working as hard, that ultimately would allow it to run at a higher battery life. Sad they wasted the cop's time. Well, he got his bike back, so it's not a complete waste. They solved the crime. They did it. It's a happy ending. Happy news. It's hard to find these days. Marngel says, joke's on you. I don't have 5G because I use AT&T, and AT&T sucks. I think all the carriers have some form of 5G by now. But yeah, if you're worried about battery life, just turn it off. It uses, even if 5G, from my experience, even if 5G is like the same speed or slower than 4G, it objectively uses more power. So it's not even just about like, oh, your phone's using more data and it's using more internet. That way, that means the battery is draining faster. It's like, no, it's just a wavelength. It's literally just the type of wavelength that is used for the 5G connection. Even if the speed is slower, the battery still gets eaten up. This is partly why I still hate 5G pretty much. I think it was rushed to market. I think everyone in the hardware field, because, okay, let me back up a second. Everyone in the hardware field is trying to accelerate speeds. You know, you want to get better internet service. You want lower latency. I get all that. I'm not saying that we should never, ever in all of humanity, we should ever advance past 4G. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the technology, as I've used it and as I've currently seen it implemented, it should not have been brought to market yet. I think we should have waited until we found a way for the modems to not consume as much power and the antennas on our phones to not overheat so easily. And I don't think the coverage was very good either. And I think that the bigger problem with cellular connectivity that people were experiencing was not so much bandwidth or how much traffic people were using. It was more so not enough coverage. And I didn't think 5G was addressing that problem. Basically, all hardware companies, Samsung, Google, Apple, everyone's guilty. I don't think anyone's innocent of, oh, we don't need 5G yet. Everyone's like, 5G, get it out as soon as possible. Everyone would have been fine delaying 5G 3 or 4 years if it would have just been more ironed out. The coverage would have been better, or the speeds would have been at least noticeably good, or the battery would not be tanked. It was rushed to market. Carriers just wanted some kind of marketing campaign to throw out there because it's a very marketable thing, 5G, as Apple has shown us last year. They love talking about 5G. No one can really explain it very well other than just, it's faster. So that's a really good selling point. You can't really get people to switch to your network just by saying, we've improved coverage of our towers by 20%. You know, that's not as exciting. What's exciting is saying, is the cellular speed on your phone slow? And people go, yeah. And then you go, well, 5G is faster. And that's as simple as the average consumer is ever going to think about it. They just think, oh, 5G fast? Okay, my phone's slow. But the truth is, most of the time, the reason their phone is slow is because the coverage isn't good. Or the phone is old or something something unrelated. But anyway, we got a super chat from Rich Hardesty here. It says, currently running a 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro with 2 external monitors for a daily driver, but want to move to a Mac Mini for working from home. Should I wait for M1X version or get a refurbished M1 version now? Ooh, okay, we're in a similar predicament, huh? Well, not really. I can wait. But basically, very common question. Thank you for donating, Rich. Appreciate it. Basically, I have the same answer for all these types of questions of, should I get a decent Mac now for a refurbished price, or should I wait for this rumored upcoming launch that sounds like it'll be way better? It all comes down to how your current system is holding up for you. So my follow-up question to any time someone asks me that is just, is it unbearable? Is your current machine significantly slowing down your workflow to the point that, like, you know, I don't know what work you're doing, but if it's just for casual use, is it like so unbearably bad that you hardly can do what you want to do with the machine? Is it so bad that you're late on delivering work to clients? My buddy Ross is kind of in that situation where he's like, his Mac can hardly play the footage that his Red camera has. So I'm like, you might want to upgrade soon. But if it's unbearable and it's like, I can't get this work done, or I can't join this class, or I can't use this for school because it's so slow and it's so old, in that case, you know, you're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself by waiting for another one, because we take the risk. We in the leak community try to act like we know what's going to happen. We like to think we can anticipate what Apple's going to announce, but time and time again, Apple proves all the leakers wrong, and we once again find out how many of these people have no clue what the crap they're talking about. So that happens a lot. I would say there's a decent chance of an M1X Mac Mini coming out in the next couple months. By next couple months, I mean October. I don't think it would come out in September. So if October M1X Mac Mini comes out, that's great, but we don't know like 100% for sure. Like there's a chance, we could be wrong, and it turns out that actually Apple decided, no, we don't need an M1X Mac Mini. The M1 is good enough for the Mac Mini demographic, so we're just not going to release one. And then if you want to get M1X, you're going to have to spend a ton of money on MacBooks or something, and something outside of your budget is what I'm saying. So if it's intolerable and it's preventing you from working, go ahead, get a refurbished M1 Mac Mini. But if it's tolerable and it's like, it's fine, like I can work with it, I don't mind your 20, what did you say you're on? A 15-inch 2017 MacBook Pro? Yeah, it's getting up there. It's probably, 4 years old now? If it's still getting the job done, it's just kind of slow, and you were hoping this next Mac would be a lot faster, that's more in comparison to the situation I find myself in right now. Because ever since 2019, I think, I've been talking with my wife and talking with my friends about what Mac I'm going to buy. I talk with my wife not because she's interested in it, but because it's a financial decision that impacts both of us. So I'm like, honey, you know, I remember very specifically having a conversation in early 2019, like January or February, and saying, honey, there's a lot of rumors and there's a lot of talk about this upcoming Mac Pro, and my iMac Pro has been doing okay for a couple years, but, you know, for the sake of the tech channel and wanting to review it, I kind of want to see what this... Because remember, at the time, the only Mac Pro we had was from 2013, the trash can Mac Pro, and there was no... Hey, Benji's in the chat. Nice. I'll catch up on the super chats. I'll get there. But Benji's... I just want to mod him real quick, just so I can see him whenever he joins. Shout out to Benji. Basically, all we had was the trash can Mac Pro from 2013, and there were all of these conversations going on about the refreshed Mac Pro coming out mid-2019. So I was talking to my wife. I was like, this sounds kind of cool. This sounds like a big deal, and it might pique a lot of people's interest, so I think I want to buy it. And we were planning for it, and she was up for it. She was like, okay, sounds good. You know, how much is the monitor going to cost, and what keyboard and mouse are you going to use for it? Then, of course, it came out, ended up costing $6,000 for 256 gig, which I was not expecting. And if you wanted anything better than that, you were going to spend $10,000 on it. And I was like, okay, never mind. I was interested in a Mac Pro, but not that interested. I was like, no, thank you. So that didn't work out. And then 2020 happened. And I was like, okay, my iMac Pro is still working fine. I can live with this. And then they announced the Apple Silicon transition, and they got me really excited. I was like, okay, this is the time they're going to redesign the iMac. iMac's going to look all fresh, clean, and modern now, and we're going to be moving away from Intel, and there's going to be this monumental loop. So ever since the transition away from Intel announcement, I've been very pumped. I've been very excited to get a new Mac, and I didn't want to keep using my iMac Pro. Basically, as soon as I found out we'd be switching to Apple Silicon. So I was like, okay, this is the future. I'm ready. Let's go. I knew that the M1 probably wasn't going to be enough for me to switch to, but there was probably a glimmer of hope. I was like, what if the M1 just outperforms my iMac Pro easily? Maybe I'll just get that. But it didn't. It was good, but it didn't quite outclass my iMac Pro. It was close, though. Very, very close for a fanless MacBook Air. So I was thoroughly impressed. But the truth at the end of the day is my iMac Pro is still doing fine. I'm still throwing a ton of 4K 60 frames a second videos on it every single day, and I'm using it for live streaming, and no problems so far. I'd be in a different situation if this thing conked out and one day it just didn't turn on. My backup plan for that is I'd probably get a certified refurbished M1 Mac Mini, just like you're thinking about, because the deals on that are so good. Oh, I'm sorry you're going to make me do it. I have to. Okay, I know. I try not to do this. People think I'm obsessed with certified refurbished Apple products, but I just have to check, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Oh, my God, they have it. Canned bread. They have it. $589 for an M1 chip. Oh, you just got to provide your own monitor. That's insane amount of power for the money. Dude, you can almost buy 2 of those for less than a mini LED iPad Pro. And that's a very powerful Mac. But yes, they still have them available. They're still there. Sometimes they weren't there, but even an M1 MacBook Air, that's $850. Holy crap. I'm sorry. I'm going to go every stream bringing this up. I got to look at this webpage at least once a day. It's just an amazing value. Okay. Wow, they have it. But yeah, overall, if it's intolerable rich, just go ahead, get the Mac Mini now. But if it's getting you by and you can live with it, then yeah, wait, obviously. The longer you can wait, the better, because that game will never end. There will always be another Mac coming. There's an M1X Mac Mini potentially coming into this year. We could be wrong, but there's probably one coming. If you wait another year, you'll get an M2X Mac Mini, which would be even better. Wait another year, M3X Mac Mini. So it's just, how long do you want to wait? How uncomfortable are you with your current Mac is really the question you should be asking. Hopefully that long, drawn-out, complicated answers your question. Zach Jewett, thank you for the super chat, says, I found a pair of AirPods Max at Best Buy, open box for $400. I was nervous about their condition, but they are amazing. $550 was just way too much. Oh, that's an amazing deal, Zach. I think $400 is actually a very fair price for them. I agree. $550 was about $50 more than my worst-case scenario. So Apple just knocked my expectations out of the park with how expensive they were willing to charge for a freaking pair of over-ear headphones that charge via Lightning. There's still things I don't like about them. I still don't like that you have to use the Lightning connector. I don't like that they aren't really much of a tool. You have to buy like the wired option separately. I don't like the case. There have been several times where I've seen them go on sale like you did. I didn't see $400 from Best Buy, though. I guess they're used, so that's a little different. But there have been times where I thought about it, because I'll be honest, as much as I complained about AirPods Max, I did really like the way they look. I'll just flat out, no lies here. I'm not just saying this. I think that AirPods Max are the best looking over-ear headphones. Like, they were super comfortable. I love the steel polished stems. I love the big aluminum cups. They just feel so high quality, and I love the build of them. I hate a bunch of other crap about them, like the stupid case and lightning connector, but overall, they just look so good. So there were times I was like, I wonder if I have a limit. Like I have a limit with the Pro Display. I've said this to myself many times after I saw one in person, just having an Apple-made monitor with a thin one-size bezel all the way around and 32 inches. It was just gorgeous. I looked at it and I was like, I would pay $3,000 for this, but not a penny more. And that includes the stand. So we're probably never, ever going to find a Pro Display XDR with a stand for $3,000. But I thought it was a quality monitor and I was willing to spend. I still think that's a lot. For just a screen, $3,000, I would say that's still pretty high end. And that's what I'd be willing to pay for it. But I checked used and refurbished. There's no Pro Display selling for. It's like the gold Apple Watch we were talking about earlier today. The Pro Display XDRs are not any cheaper to buy used. I know because I looked around quite a bit. I could not find a single one that was like, oh, that's a little cheaper. They're not cheaper. Ray Day Super Chat, it says, I don't even have good LTE coverage in my area. I know. That's what I'm saying. A ton of people, I know that story. So it's like 5G's not helping them in any way. Rockford Media super chatted, says, have you seen the leak? Apple Pro Mac Mini leak? What? You got to read these things before you send them. There's money attached to them. I appreciate the donation, but I'm trying to understand what you mean. The leak Apple Pro Mac Mini leak. No, I haven't. I guess that's all I have to say, right? To answer your question. What is it? What's the leak? Do you get Apple Care with refurbished? You get the 1-year warranty. I believe you can get Apple Care, but it's not like included. Alexander Trade super chatted €4, I think. He didn't say anything. Oh, here it is. He said a message here. I just wanted to say that I love your content. Stay this way, please. But I miss the old Tailosive theme song. Which one? We have a lot of different theme songs over the years. Thank you for the donation. And I will stay this way as long as people are watching. Rational Pragmatist says, you getting the Fold 3 and people cry about Apple Gear being overpriced. No, after yesterday, I'm reminded why I don't like talking about Android phones very much is because people don't understand a bias. And I don't know what's changed with me. What's wrong? I used to have thicker skin, I think. Maybe it's because my psoriasis went away when I got this new medication. So my skin isn't as thick as it used to be. But when I was younger, I used to not care. I felt like I wanted to tick people off. And I was just like, I hate the foldables. Samsung sucks and this isn't good or whatever. I don't think I ever said that, but I made a video yesterday about the Z Fold 3 and the Z Flip 3 and talked about how, I don't think they're the future, but I think it's cool and it's a good thing for the people who are into foldables. And I wish Apple would make a foldable. And heck yeah, I'm jealous because I'm not really into the Galaxy ecosystem. It doesn't really work for my workflow. But if you are into the Galaxy ecosystem and it can fit into yours, then you have options of phone that I don't have access to. And I think it'd be really interesting if Apple made a foldable. I don't think they will because the sales of them are incredibly low. But don't bring that up to Samsung people. They don't like when you bring up that the things they like and care about aren't really appreciated by average consumers. They just get fussy very quickly. But I just got so many comments of people saying like, blatantly like missing the point. Like I intentionally titled the reaction stream Apple Sheep Reacts to Galaxy Unpacked. So I don't know what they were expecting to get, but they were like, Drew's so negative. He hates anything that's not Apple. I was like, what do you think Apple Sheep means? What were you expecting to get? I was like, were you expecting a fair, honest, and objective opinion from a guy who's branding himself as the Apple Sheep? Like, I don't know why, but there was just a bunch of comments and a bunch of people getting very angry that I wasn't praising Samsung for, adding S Pen support to a foldable. And I was like, oh, it's cool, it's neat, but I just, the events are cringe. And I also think a lot of these people don't know me very well. Yeah, like Loner Boy is saying. They don't know me very well because if they did, they would realize I complain about Apple far more than Samsung. I've been accused as being an Apple hater, and I'm uploading videos that hate on Apple for the sake of clicks, and I was like, I don't do things for the sake of clicks. I just don't hold back my opinion, and that was just my opinion of the event. And I did genuinely praise it several times, and I feel like people don't notice that. If you're not constantly nonstop praising it, they think that you hate it. So the fact that I was like, that's still kind of expensive. They're like, how can you say that? Yeah, I agree with Marngel. No reviewers are subjective. Everyone's got a bias. And some people are just open and honest about their bias, and some people try to hide it and pretend they're fair and objective. And I just think that's unrealistic because that's not how people think. And there are a lot of channels on YouTube. There's a lot of channels that just present the news, and they don't really give much of their spin on it. They don't really provide much of an opinion or a speculative idea of where it's going. They just kind of say, here's what it is, here's the specs, here's what it comes with. And it's very easy, I think. Well, to be honest, it's fairly easy to be positive about everything. I know I can think of a few channels, I'm not going to name names, but I can think of a few channels that just think all technology is great and there's never been a bad product ever, and they will just endlessly praise any company, any brand, because, you know, they want brand deals, they want sponsorship, so they're just going to be nice to any company that can possibly talk to them. And there's also channels that I think it's very easy to hate everything. You know, if you're looking for negatives and if you're looking for drawbacks in everything you look at, Apple, Samsung, Google, you can complain endlessly about any subject if you just dwell on the pessimistic side of life. I would say it's fairly easy to be either. You can be overly positive or negative if you want to, but to me, that's not what matters. Is whether or not you're positive or negative. That's a variable. What matters is, are you being honest with yourself? Are you being upfront and clear with how you feel? And if someone doesn't list any positives of something, if no one ever gives, you know, if someone complains a lot, which is very easy to do, but they never give the other side of the argument any credit, and they never acknowledge any other side opinion, or like, okay, I see where you're coming from, I get it, it just doesn't work for me. To me, that speaks volumes to more genuine and more interesting commentary, is when you could acknowledge why something might be good or why someone might appreciate something. I tried to do that with the iMac, because the 24-inch iMac, because I really, truly, and passionately hate that design, and I could not get into it. The more I looked at it, the more I hated it, and it was not growing. It was not growing on me at all, frankly. But I did a whole review where I was like, I'm not going to talk about what I don't like. I'm just going to do like a 15, 20-minute video about all the great things about it and all the things I like, because I've spent 2 or 3 videos now complaining and being salty about it. So I wanted to compare and contrast. I was like, okay, I don't like the design, but if you do like the design, it's a great option. Like, if you can get into the design, if you are comfortable with the way it looks, that's perfect, because now there's an option that you didn't have before, and it's to your advantage. You know, I'll acknowledge that. If there's something that bothers me that doesn't bother you, that's my loss. That means it sucks for me, and it doesn't suck for you, because you can tolerate that type of thing. It's what's a good example? Something that doesn't bother me that probably bothers others. Maybe living in a small house, or living in a small city. Like, I don't live in a populated area, so, you know, we have to drive further to get to the airport, and my house is kind of small. But I had to pay significantly less to get this house, and my cost of living is far lower than someone who has to live in a major city. So it's like, it's one of those things that doesn't bother me, may bother you, so it's my advantage. I can put up with less. It's the same thing with like cars. If someone's mindset is the car has to have a certain build quality or a certain number of features or a certain paint pristineness, it's like, okay, if you need that out of your product, you're going to lose more money on that product. Whereas if I don't care about that, I can live with less. I can live with a crappy car. That's to my gain. I can live with less. So it's like, being negative and pessimistic really has nothing but downsides. Oh, I thought of a good example. I see your super chats. I'll get to them in a second. But one example I've seen a lot is someone who is a movie critic versus someone who will just kind of watch any movie or show and enjoy it. I had friends growing up that could watch any movie, didn't matter how crappy or how corny or how bad the acting was, and he'd just go to the movie theater all the time and enjoy it. And he was just like, "Yeah, it was a great movie. Yeah, great movie." He'd just watch. I'm trying to think of an example that doesn't tick off everyone. I was thinking like all the Transformers movies or all the Fast and Furious movie. There's some good ones. I'm not trying to hate on all of them. I'm just saying, you watch a bunch of movies that I didn't have much enjoyment in, but I went to the movies with him because he invited me. I was like, let's go watch a movie. And I walked out of it going, that movie kind of sucked. I don't even remember what movie it was. I think it was Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield. It's not all bad, but overall I didn't care for it. But it was just one of those scenarios where it was like, he likes all things, so when he goes to the movie, when he goes to the theater, he has a great time. He loves it. I go there and I'm like, I don't like this plot point. I don't like how these characters work, and it's like, that's my loss. Now I've spent money and had a bad experience. Wonderful. Rational Pragmatist says, do you get Apple Care with... Oh, sorry, I answered that. I don't think so. August Amberson says, there's no Apple refurbished where I live. Dang it. That sucks. Move to somewhere where they do have it. It's going to save you millions of dollars a year. You're right. No reviewers are objective. Lee says the BIA sensor is actually mind-blowing. I guess I didn't understand it very well, likely because I was too distracted, but I guess I just don't see a lot of people using it. It's kind of, I mean, I'm not just picking on Samsung here. I kind of feel the same way with Apple. Like, they put a lot of work into the ECG and the oxygen level checker, and I'm just kind of like, how often do people actually use that? And you're engineering it to be in every single one? I think just the standard heart rate monitor has saved more lives than the actual ECG thing. And I don't think the blood oxygen sensor does anything really that anyone cares about. But I just have yet to see what the big game changer is with the BIA sensor on the Galaxy Watch. I have a hard time imagining it'll change much just because those watches don't sell in extreme volume. But I'll stand corrected if it comes out and changes people's lives, or makes things a lot easier for people. I don't know. Zach Jewett says, I don't care what their claims are in the new S Pen. Never in a million years would I put anything that comes of any kind of point slightly rounded off with springs or not. Yeah, I would be very concerned about that as well. So just be careful for all those people drawing the Fold 3. But I don't think my opinion on the Fold 3 would change very much if I reviewed it. I reviewed the Fold 2 last year, and I thought I gave it a lot of credit. I thought I was being somewhat fair, and I was being honest with what I thought the drawbacks were, but I was also admitting that, okay, it's changed my mind on foldables, and I really like this form factor, and this is a good way to do it. And still a ton of people got ticked off and mad and angry, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to... That's not what I get joy out of. Maybe I used to, but nowadays, I don't know. Maybe I'm just older. I don't take a lot of pleasure in just making a ton of people angry at me. I'm just going to share what I think. If a bunch of people don't like it, then I'm like, okay, I don't need to review Android phones. I don't get a ton of use out of it. It's a lot of work on my end. I got to film it and switch my SIMs over and break my Apple ecosystem and put one phone somewhere else and carry different chargers. And it's a big hassle for me, but if people find it interesting or want to keep watching it, then I'll do it. But if people just get angry and mad, I'm not going to do this. Scott says, I'll admit it's cool. I'd love to play around with one in Best Buy, but using one in the daily would probably get real old real quick. Yeah, that was my experience with it. It was like I tried a foldable, and I put my SIM in it, and that was the only phone I was using, and I was unfolding it, using the outside screen, inside screen, outside screen, inside screen, and I was trying to work it into my workflow, and I was like, yeah, after a couple days, you're just kind of used to it, and it doesn't really wow you anymore. I think that's what foldables are good at, is just wowing people. And it gets people talking, and it's certainly innovative to a certain extent. I don't know if that makes it the new standard or if that makes it the future, but there's a lot of things that are innovative that don't really make it into the mainstream. And I tried to show off the Z Fold 2 to as many people as I could when I had one. And yeah, people's attention was held for a couple seconds. After about 30 seconds of most people looking at it, they were like, okay, cool. Especially when they found out the price. That's when they lose all interest instantly. Anytime I was trying to show it to someone, I was like, yeah, look, it can open it up and it's bigger on the inside. And they're like, wow, okay. Yeah, how much is that? I was like, oh, it's about $2,000. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, I think it's perfect. It's basically made for tech YouTubers. That's almost essentially what I think foldables are for, which is why I think it would be cool if Apple made one. It's like that's basically an iPhone just for us. It's a tech product that gets the tech community talking, gets everybody excited. But is the average consumer going to care? Probably not. I don't think so. Oh. I don't know what he... Dang it. What happened? What was he... Is he spamming? I want to read the man's super chat. Oh, Mike, don't delete the message if I didn't get to the chat yet. I mean, don't spam people. I will catch up on the super chats, but I want to see what this message said. Can someone repeat what Jake Muir super chatted? I didn't get to his. I was just about to. His super chat was next, but yeah, if I'm not getting to your super chat, I will eventually get there. I'm just trying to thoroughly answer. If I give like one-word answers to every question, I don't think these live streams are going to be very interesting to you guys. We just go, okay, I'm going to answer every single question that comes in, and then I just like read everything as quickly as possible. Let's see. Will you review the Pixel 6? Looks promising. I'm still on the phase of I don't need to review, and I don't need to buy and review Android phones to give my opinion on them. I'm fine with just occasionally testing out. I'm fine with occasionally talking about them in videos if they make some sort of announcement and I think about the strategy and the features the product offers. Oh, okay. Scott remembered. He asked if he could switch, if he should switch to Verizon from AT&T because he's heard it's better in the Northeast. Yeah, good question, but good because I don't know the answer. That's going to depend on exactly where. It's not like cellular coverage is only good in this giant bubble that covers 8 states in the top. It's like it literally depends on the city. It depends where in the city. Like I've been to a friend's house that's like a couple minutes from here with really crappy T-Mobile coverage. But then at my house, it's like really fast. And he's not close to me at all. So it's not like the speed's really good in all of Washington, but it's not good in Oregon or something. Yeah, it's all just going to depend on exactly where you are. But I don't know. I've not spent a lot of time in the Northeast. But yeah, I get it. You want to get your super chat read. I will do my best to catch up with all of them, but also don't spam, because if we start making exceptions and say anyone who super chats is allowed to spam, then we're just going to have a ton of spam. So please don't spam the same message over and over again. If you feel like your super chat's not getting read, just be patient. I'll get there. Okay. Now, thankfully, I should be all caught up. Also, keep in mind, becoming a YouTube member makes your name stand out in the chat, and it's far cheaper than super chatting. It's like $2 a month. So that's probably a lot easier than attaching a super chat to every message. But Zach Jewett says, I'm a higher-end professional trainer, and the BIA sensor seems really pointless in my opinion. I understand bodily fat percentage for some cases. Only bodybuilders would need that, and they don't need a watch for it. Huh, okay. So it has more to do with the body fat percentage. Forgot to answer the second half of my question. Oh, well, you said I'm personally excited for AirPower. And then I was like, haha, very funny. That's why I ignored it. But what product am I most excited for next month? Well, it's iPhone season next month. I mean, what else is coming out in September? It's iPhone. It's like Series 7, AirPods, probably AirPods 3, and iPhone 13 Pro Max, which is probably going to be my last iPhone for a long time. So I guess, yeah, it's got to be iPhone. There's nothing going on with the Series 7 that would get me that excited. I'll get 120 hertz. Chris Rock says, USB-C won't come to the iPhone as long as Lightning is beneficial for Apple. Non-port is more likely happening. It just seems like such a baseless argument, because if that were the case, why would they switch the iPads to USB-C? It doesn't make any sense. And why would they allow Qi charging on the iPhone? That allows people to use it without Apple's first-party accessories. I just don't see Apple pushing Lightning that hard as to the point. Like, they probably make some money off of Lightning, but I don't think it's enough for them to keep it around solely so that they can make more money off of it. It's like, you make your product better, that's what sells. I would say Lightning has actively stopped people from buying iPhones. I've actually seen that comment, believe it or not. A lot in the tech community, I see a ton of people say, if the iPhone had USB-C, I would switch to it. It was like that was like a deal breaker for some people. Definitely not me, but you could see the keeping of Lightning preventing the sales to a certain extent. Not a ton of people, but I could just see marginal. But it's the same thing as like the Lightning accessory and the made for iPhone program with the Lightning connector. I don't think makes Apple gobs of money. A little bit, but it's not like a deal breaker amount. If that were the case, why would they switch to USB-C on so many iPads? That actively makes them lose money, right? Sosh Rin says, are HomePods worth it, or is the minis better? Do you use them? Not regularly since I switched away from Apple Music, but I do have good what am I trying to frickin' say here? I do like the HomePod Mini. I checked one out recently, and I thought the sound quality was impressive. And someone, some other tech YouTuber was talking about him recently. Who was it? Let me find him real quick. Oh, yeah, Ryan Shaw Tech. He mostly talks about Tesla. So he was talking about this under my EV account, but I thought it was worth sharing. Mainly because he was all in on the Amazon Echo ecosystem. Since we read a lot of tweets today, let's keep this trend going. Okay. YouTube's like, warning. He says he just switched to the Apple HomePod versus Amazon Echo. He's in the Apple Echo system on accident. He wrote that. But he said, I've used Amazon Echo speakers for the past 2 years to control some Hue lights, smart plugs, and play music. Recently, Alexa has been getting comments extremely wrong. Lights take 10 seconds to turn on after a command. Lots of, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, or my personal favorite, by the way, you can order blank through me at any time. It has felt like a bunch of Amazon advertisers living in my house and that don't do their job well anymore. Music requests have gotten terrible. Rosa Passos is an example of challenging artists for any smart device to hear. However, the other day when I asked for Rosa Passos, Alexa played the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack. That's not a bug, that's a feature. Ryan, you should be listening to the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack. Please, come on. We need more Tony Hawk Pro Skater in our lives. I wonder if they pay extra. Do they pay Amazon extra just so that they get Tony Hawk playing more regularly? That'd be funny. So he says, I finally decided to bite the bullet and give the Apple HomePod a try. I'm blown away. Setup, 10 out of 10. Ease of use, 10 out of 10. Home app setup, speed of reactions, lack of advertisements, music commands. Siri gets most obscure requests perfect. Play 7 Steps from Heaven by Miles Davis from the album 4 and More. 2 seconds later, Siri starts the correct recording. For a long time, Siri wasn't helpful and didn't do a great job. Now Siri and HomePod are incredibly useful. Echo Dot's $40, HomePod is $100. There's a big difference in the price jump for the HomePod, but it's well worth it. So I read that today, which I thought was interesting because he, I know, is not a diehard Apple fanboy. He's a very, I've talked to Ryan directly several times, and he's a very objective, very level-headed, just very well-balanced guy. So he's not an Apple sheep by any means, and he just was all in on these Echo speakers and then was like, I'm tired of the ads. I'm tired of Alexa getting things wrong. So I'm going to switch to the HomePod, and he's really happy with it. So I'm like, there you go. There's a personal example, because all the time I hear people say, Siri sucks, Siri's so stupid, Siri can't answer basic questions. And then you hear these stories and you're like, not to say that Siri is smart. I won't say that. I'll just say no digital assistant is smart. And that's why I use the term digital assistant, not smart speaker, is because they're all pretty dumb. We use the Google speakers pretty regularly, and time again, they mess up what my wife is asking for. Usually I start playing music that's nothing anywhere close to what she asked for. So that annoys me, but it doesn't annoy me enough to want to switch to Apple Music. I've had it in the past, and it's fine, and I don't want to spend them. We have a speaker in the bedroom, we have a speaker in the kitchen, we have a speaker in the bathroom. So if we wanted to switch to a whole Siri supported thing, it would be like a monthly cost increase, and we would have to drop probably $300, $400. I'm not willing to do that. If problem's not that big a deal, it doesn't bug me that much. But let's see. Drew should bring back the Pixel rants. He has yet to rant about the Pixelbook Go. Well, I've got to try it first. I don't know. I feel like the rants would get old if I did them all the time. And I also need something rant-worthy. If there's nothing really to rant about, then it's not going to be interesting. Jim Jam John said, foldables are not the future. Rollables are. Well, I'll agree they're the future, as in not the present. Marngel says, when do you personally think Apple have the perfect iPhone display, as in no notch or hole punch? Hole punch isn't perfect, but no notch? I don't know. I think it's going to be out for a long time. I don't think Apple is comfortable with what Samsung did with the Galaxy Fold 3, where it's like, I brought this up in the video, but I still just want to pay some attention to that. Does anyone else find it funny that Samsung has created a middle step between under display camera and punch hole? It's like, well, now you have slightly noticeable pixelated hole. It's like, okay, it's a little better. I don't know. I think it's funny that we keep getting closer and closer to completely notchless and punch holeless, and we're still like incremental steps. Now we've got to at least get 3 years of the pixelation behind the camera gets better. Now it's less pixelated. Now it's slightly more detailed, but it's still, you can still kind of see it. When is Apple going to get there? I think when everyone else has already gotten there for years. Apple's going to wait until that technology is like ironed out, perfect. The camera works flawlessly. Face ID works flawlessly. And there's no pixelation. I could be wrong. Maybe Apple's okay with the middle step of like, okay, it's slightly pixelated there, but you can't really notice. Because it's kind of the same argument with a notch. You think about it. Before the notch came out, I remember everyone saying, no, that's a compromise, or that seems like a cap out. Apple wouldn't do that. And then they did it. Everyone was like, oh, okay, I guess notches are fine. Because Apple was like, yeah, you don't really notice. It might be a similar argument with the pixelated hole, where it's like you can kind of see through it, but not really. Maybe they'll be like, good enough. You don't really notice. It'd be better than a notch, I guess. But I think we're easily another 5-6 years away. I don't think it's like next year or the year after. I'd love to be proven wrong, though. I don't see it happen. I don't think Apple's in a rush, given they've had amazing sales of iPhones over the past couple of years, and they didn't do anything with the notch. So as far as Apple's concerned, this is not a feature people want addressed or taken care of soon. Or it would not convince people to upgrade, which is what matters. Okay, I'll catch up here. Oh, yeah, I answered that question. Jack Muir, thank you for the super chat. Do you know or ever talk to iUpdate? Oh, yeah. We text each other. Not like daily, but yeah, we've talked a lot. We've had him on the Tech Podcast recently. Wasn't it recently? It's like 3 months ago, I think, we had him on the podcast. But yeah, no, we go way back. We know each other very well. Do the HomePod Mini support Spotify? They do not. I wish they did. I'd probably be far more tempted to get a HomePod Mini if I could stream Spotify off of it. There are other third-party streaming services that I believe the HomePod supports other than Apple Music, but not Spotify. I would also be interested in the YouTube Premium because I pay for that. So if it supported YouTube Music, I don't really care about the layout of the streaming service because it's a smart speaker. So as long as it plays the song I ask it to, I don't really care what service it is, as long as it's one that I get for cheaper than Apple Music. So if they just supported YouTube Music or Spotify, I would be far more inclined to get one. But until then, I don't have much incentive. Lee Super Chat, says, are you buying the Cybertruck? I am. I'm happy for you, but no, I have currently no plans to buy a Tesla. The Cybertruck is probably one of my favorite Teslas, if not the favorite, but I have ridden in a F-150 recently that my grandpa owns, and I got to admit, after getting in that F-150 and sitting in the passenger seat and stuff, it kind of scared me off of wanting to get a Cybertruck, at least in its current dimensions. I may feel differently if I sat in one and rode around in it, but after getting in his truck and we drove around downtown and he tried to park it, and I was just like, I really don't like being in a truck this big. Some people like that. I know people that are just like, I want to be in a big truck. I want to be up high off the ground, king of the road. I just want to be safe and big. I'm kind of the opposite. I kind of like my little sedan. It's very easy to park. It's very agile. I can turn it around very quickly, and it feels like any parking space I look at, I can just park right, no problem. Whereas at my old job, before I was a full-time YouTuber, I worked at a mandarin ranch. I had to drive this F-350 everywhere, and I had to drive it all the time, and it was huge. And I have many hours clocked in that truck, and it was not fun for me. I felt like I was going to break something all the time, and I felt like I couldn't fit that truck in any parking space I needed to. I just don't like driving big trucks, and I know that the Cybertruck is pretty close in size to the F-150. So once I got in that F-150 again, I was like, I'd be very interested in a small Cybertruck if they made a little one, because I like trucks, and my main fascination with the Cybertruck is the durability, because I hate paint on cars and I want an exoskeleton. And you know, my first car ever was a Ford Ranger, And that was a truck with a decent-sized bed. I think it was like a 4-foot bed No, it was like 5. I think it was a 5-foot bed. And it was very practical, and I loved driving it around because it was smaller, and I felt like I could park it anywhere. It wasn't like a big hassle to drive. Whereas I'm worried that the Cybertruck, because of its width and height and everything, is going to be kind of cumbersome to park and that type of thing. So that would probably scare me away from the Cybertruck. But I'd be super duper interested in a smaller version if they have. They've said they'll make it, but they've got so much on their plate right now. I don't think it's a top priority. Anyway, this is not Tailosive EV. What are we doing? Got to catch up on everything else. Lonely Boy says, all smart speakers suck. They don't listen. Yeah, that's how I kind of see it, too. Yeah, they're all pretty bad. Scott S. says, I have Google Home Minis, HomePod Minis, and an Alexa Dot. Alexa is definitely the worst of the 3. Wow. I'm hearing a lot of bad things about Alexa so far. Yeah, I thought Amazon would be better than this, considering they were first to the market. I guess being first doesn't make that big a difference. Zach Jewett says, I've been using HomePod and HomeKit for my smart home for years, and I switched to Google Home a few weeks ago, and good God, it was miserable. Nothing worked or communicated. I switched back to HomeKit. Jeez. Yeah, that's not good. Having done both, I don't have good things to say about either. I've run into complications with accessories with HomeKit and Google Home. So I'm not overly impressed with either. But Philip Lauren says, I'm still waiting for those Apple glasses. Will you buy them? Yeah, I just wish, I don't know how far away they are. It feels like they've been 4 years away for 10 years, and it's just like, oh, maybe next year, maybe next year, maybe next year. It just keeps getting pushed back. But obviously, if they happened, if they actually came out, absolutely, I'd be super duper interested. Any type of new platform Apple enters that I haven't seen them enter before is automatically going to pique my interest. That's why I enjoyed talking more about AirTags today, is because this is a category Apple's not been present in, and I think they did a really, really good job. It's not a category that I need personally. I don't have a purpose for an AirTag, mostly because I work from home and I don't go out very much. Mostly because, pandemic plus smoke plus there's just not a need for me to go out very regularly. So I'm very impressed with AirTags, and I'm really glad Apple made them because I think they work better and more reliably than any other geo-tracking tag out there. So I think Apple did a great job with them, and the price blew me away. I was definitely not expecting them to be $30. I was like, there's hardly anything you can buy from Apple these days that's $30 that's like its own product. Most of the stuff that's $30 or less is like adapters. So the fact that they undercut on price and have replaceable batteries that you don't need a screwdriver for, and the battery lasts over a year, they're so easy to set up. I just think AirTags are really, really cool. And it's a similar situation with a car or a camera or glasses. Any type of new category Apple's not currently in that they enter. Other than services, I don't care about services that much. There's a new way we've discovered to bill you monthly. We've thought of something. We're going to throw these ads in iOS, and we're going to put another tab in the activity app that's just for ads. I just don't like ads in my software. And ever since Apple got into services, there's been more and more ads on my phone. They're clean, simple ads. They don't seem like ads. People don't think of them as ads, but that's what they are. You just go into settings, and they're like, oh, you want to subscribe to this, don't you? Or you go into the Stocks app even. You go open Stocks, and they're like, oh, you can look at this article through Apple News Plus. Or you go into the music application. It's like, oh, you should subscribe to Apple Music. And there's all these crazy ads that Apple's baking in. And I don't like it. No, thank you. Marngel says, so 2027 for notchless iPhone? Yeah, sure, why not? Put me on the record. I'll probably be wrong. Most of my predictions are wrong anyway, so I don't know why people ask for my guess. But I'll throw that out there. See if it sticks. Notchless iPhone, 2027. No camera pull. It's under the display. We've got 6 years to go, people. Benji's like, why do you have Spotify? Oh, you missed a lot, didn't you, Benji? Basically, it's free for me because my brother-in-law has a family premium plan. I think through his work or something. But he got Spotify premium, and he asked if I wanted to use it. And I asked him, like, how much do I have to pay you to be on it? And he was like, no, it's free. Just, you can have it. I was like, okay. So I got nothing wrong with Apple Music. It's just Spotify premiums. It's hard to compete with free. So it's like I could have the nice iOS music application with Apple Music for $10 a month, or I could get rid of that subscription and use Spotify, which works great, and I like Spotify. Works pretty well for my use and pay nothing. It's like, okay, it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to spend $10 a month just so that the UI can be slightly different. There's not one, I don't think one is objectively better than the other. I think they both do pretty much the same thing. At the end of the day, you open an app and you look up a song and it plays the song. That's how Apple Music works. That's how Spotify works. Slightly different autoplay algorithms, but it all kind of does the same thing. Okay, I got to catch up here. Oh man. Thank you for everyone being so generous for no reason. I don't deserve it, but thank you. Let's see. You say you're going to be keeping the 13 Pro Max for a few years, but if there's any one feature the iPhone 14 Pro Max could have that would persuade you to buy/switch to it, USB-C. I want it to get USB-C, but I don't think that would get me to switch just because I charge with MagSafe all the time anyway, and I never use Lightning, so it's a good idea. Apple should still switch to it, but I don't think that would get me to switch. I'm trying to think of a feature that's very far off that's not going to happen next year, because I do want to see how long I can hold on to this phone. If there was one feature that would get me to upgrade, I would say maybe notchless. No punch hole, no pixelated punch hole, just, pure notchless. One size bezel all the way around, no camera cutout. Once Apple does that, maybe I'll consider upgrading then. Or maybe if Apple did a foldable. I don't think they will. Sorry, I know Benji was asking that earlier, but I genuinely just don't think they will. Where was that? I saw it a little bit back. Do you honestly think Apple would ever make a foldable? What would be their approach? I would hope Z Fold. If they did the flip, it would just be kind of them flexing, but yeah, I would prefer them to make something more like the Fold. I want iPadOS when opened and iOS when closed. I think Apple has the potential to make the best foldable out of anybody, but if you look at the data of what average consumers are excited for and what people are interested in moving forward with technology, foldables are actually very low on the list. I mean, we talk about them in the tech community, but any type of poll I've seen that goes towards average consumers and asks what future product are most people excited for from Apple, foldable is always very, very low. I don't see that many people. It's like you're either a big Samsung fan and you're totally into foldables and you love them, or you don't see the point at all. It's kind of there's a lot of people that are just fully committed or fully against. They're like, I'll never buy a foldable. I just don't see the point. So I think that the demand is too low for it for Apple to consider. Apple's letting Samsung do all the work for them, the trial testing. Apple's just looking over at Samsung. Samsung releases a few foldables. They have some quality control problems. They sell a few units. A couple years go by. Now they've got a good market for it. They've got people ordering it and people using it, and reviewers loving it. And Apple's like, okay. How many did you sell? 1 million? Yeah, not worth it. It's like, but still, I still say Apple would get the software much better than Samsung would. So I wish they would. But Lee super chatted, says a small Cybertruck will look like an El Camino. Very small. Yeah, not that small. I'm talking like Ford Ranger small, not like sedan small. Yash Multani, thank you for the super chat. When do you see the iPhone in the next 5 years? And can you unblock me? I only joke, mate. Want to continue watching somebody who does hate me. Come on. Did I block you? How did I block you? I don't know how to unblock you, dude. I clicked the 3 dots next to your name, and it says that you're not blocked, so I don't... Where are you blocked? I usually have to do something pretty bad for me to block you, so I don't know. What platform are you on? I don't know. But okay, I'll try to answer the question. Where do I see the iPhone in the next 5 years? Ooh, I think a lot of the same, frankly. That's kind of why I'm more interested in EVs than tech right now, is just because, well, EVs are tech, but you know what I mean. Smartphones. Just because I think smartphones are plateauing. I think that they're quickly running out of reasons to get people to upgrade. That's why they're pushing things like 5G so harshly. And I think this year is going to be definitely more of an emphasis on 120 hertz. It's more of an emphasis on the Pro iPhones this year, whereas last year was more about the entry models, the 12 and the 12 mini. The pros, I felt like were kind of snubbed. They weren't prioritized as much because they didn't get 120 hertz, and the 12 Pro and 12 had very little differences from each other. So I was like, what are we excited for if we ignore the Pro iPhones, right? If we don't talk about, guys, I don't know how to unban you from here. Most of that's handled on Discord, and you're going to have to reach out to a mod over there for it. I don't have all that stuff right in front of me. So asking to get unbanned from Discord during the live stream is a guaranteed way that it will not work. Let me just disclose that because I don't handle most of those. I ban like one person a year or something. Anyway, smartphones are quickly running out of things to make interesting. So over the next 5 years, you're going to see improved cameras. You'll probably see macro cameras get really good, and telephoto lenses get better, and battery life improve, and Face ID and Touch ID to get better, and displays to be, high refresh rate, high brightness. So you're just going to get a lot of the same, in my opinion. I don't think foldables are going to branch out much more than they already have. I think that you're going to get your occasional Z Flip and Z Fold from Samsung once a year, and that's about it. I think that's ultimately what maximum you have to look forward to. It's just like it gets a little thinner. A lot more of the same, basically. I don't see any like game-changing features because honestly, it's really, really hard to think of. Try to think of like a brand new feature, not an improvement, not like better battery life or better transfer speed, better 5G or something. Just like a brand new feature that everyday people would use on their phone. Just try to think of one. It's hard. It's not easy to do. And they have, giant teams of engineers all working together on their phones, on their smartphones, trying to figure out exactly how to make all this stuff better. And they don't know what to do. Foldables is the most recent attempt, and it has not captured much of the market's attention. It's captured the tech community, but that's about it. Outside of that, not so much. Many Apple sheep are saying they don't get foldables, but if Apple comes out one, they'll buy it. Yeah, I agree. It's because they have a reliability and a reputation with Apple products being more thought out and more optimized and getting many, many years of support. So they know if Apple does it, it will have some type of singular vision, some kind of roadmap or some kind of feature set that wasn't there before, whereas Samsung doesn't have that reputation. Samsung has more of a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, which is not bad. I don't think everybody should act like Apple. It's honestly much more interesting in the tech space when we have different companies taking things in different directions and trying out different techniques and saying, let's see if this works, let's see if this works. And so I think it's good that Samsung does this because they have a crazy, amazing hardware team that's able to mass produce these really advanced foldables and really crazy specs on their smartphones. They always have the best specs. And Samsung, in regards to, display cameras, it's the implementation or the software, not so much. But when it just comes to pure check boxes on hardware, Samsungs are always very, very good at looking good on paper. It's like, does it have 5 cameras? Check. Okay, it has 5 cameras. Are they the best cameras? No, but it has 5. Okay, does it have 120 hertz and a 1440p display? Okay, yes, it has that. Is the burn-in going to be a problem on this phone? Yeah, probably. But, they look good on paper, but the reputation is not what Apple's is. So people know that if Apple made a foldable, it would be getting more reliable hardware, much more software support, and the software would be more optimized for the hardware instead of kind of a brute force just slapping Android on a weird aspect ratio, which is kind of what Samsung is doing. Some people prefer foldables already. Yeah, I'm not denying that. The Fold isn't a bad phone. Yeah, I didn't say it was. Some people don't want to switch back to normal phones from it. Yeah, I get the people who buy foldables probably like foldables. Wow. And the Apple sheep probably want Apple to do one because then it would work within their ecosystem, and the Galaxy Fold would not work in their ecosystem. So it's kind of obvious stuff. I think it's pretty simple that way. My family switched from Amazon Echo to Google Home Minis after my parents found it creepy how Alexa responded to random conversations out of nowhere. That is kind of creepy, but I've had the same thing happen with Google, to be honest with you. Let's see. The Google Assistant does respond to us out of nowhere sometimes. Will you be reviewing new iPhone if you are going to use iPhone 13 as long as possible? Oh, yeah. I still plan on buying and reviewing the new iPhones that come out every year. I just don't plan on keeping them. I'll either sell them or return them or whatever. Just not going to become my daily driver. Ben Rayner says, would you get an iPad 4 or iPad Mini 6 when that comes out? iPad 4? You mean the Air 4? I assume you mean Air 4. I don't see much of a point in reviewing the Air 4 because it's very similar to the 11-inch iPad Pro, which I have tried, and that one is just going to be like, okay, Touch ID and the power button now. Cool. It's cheaper. There's no 120 hertz. Bezels are a tad thicker. I don't know. I felt like I didn't have much to say. I've seen the iPad Air 4. I've used it. I've toyed around with it. It's too similar to the iPad Pro for me to feel like it's worth reviewing. But the iPad Mini 6, that's a new form factor. That's the biggest upgrade the iPad Mini has ever seen. And I love the iPad Mini 5 last time they released one. That is so comfortable. It's so compact. And it's so easy to just throw in a bag. And it's just using an iPad with, being able to hold it comfortably in one hand is just kind of cool. So I'm really, really excited to see that happen. My biggest criticism of the iPad Mini 5 was just the design was dated. It still had a home button. It still had Lightning. And I wanted to see Apple bring more iPad Pro features to the small size. So it sounds like that's what the Mini 6 is going to be. That gets me excited. Air 4 is just like, okay, I get it. Dumbed down iPad Pro. Got it. Mini 6, that's something we haven't seen before. So I think that'd be cool. Cameron Sacha says, have to agree, foldables are really the only breakthrough I've seen in the last couple of years. And engineering-wise, they're very impressive. But, like, use case-wise to average consumers, it doesn't really offer much. Like, after I tried the Z Flip for a couple of days, I just started to find it annoying that every time I wanted to use my phone, I had to unfold it. It was adding a step that didn't need to be there. And Samsung even admitted during their keynote that a lot of the time, they said something like half the time people don't even use the internal display. They had some backwards way of saying it, though. They said something like, half of the time people are using the external cover display. And I was like, so they're not unfolding it. And I've seen people mention that in our Discord and on Twitter and stuff, is they're like, they know someone with a foldable or they saw someone with a foldable and they never once unfolded it. They just used it in normal smartphone mode. So that's just how a lot of consumers see it. What we need to be more honest about is how little the average consumer really cares about with their smartphone. They're like, does it have a screen? Is the battery okay? Does the battery get through my day? Okay, I'll buy that, and I'm going to use that phone for 7 years. Or if it explodes, some people will keep using phones after it stops getting software support because they just don't see the point. They're like, okay, it doesn't get the latest iOS. Big whoop. I don't care. That's what like the vast majority of the smartphone market is. They don't give a crap about the telephoto lens getting better. They don't care that much about the display being 6.7 versus 7.6. That was the other issue I had with the Fold 2, is that the unfolded display was not that big. It didn't really feel like a tablet even when unfolded. So, yeah. Cameron, thank you for the super chat. I read his message and then he super chatted afterwards. Whoa, I predicted that. Jake says, you think the iPhone 14 Pro Max will have no notch? No. Too soon, although it depends on what you're saying. I don't know what you mean by 14 Pro Max. Do you mean next year's iPhone? Or do you mean 12S, 13, 13S, 14? Still no. I don't think the notch is going anywhere. Sorry. That's what's attractive. The reason why average consumers don't get them is because it's not a good value. Well, yeah, and I think that's objectively always going to be the problem. You will always... I don't care how cheap you're able to get foldables, you will always be able to fit a bigger battery and a lower priced phone when you don't have a hinge to account for. If you're having a hinge in a smartphone, whether it's a flip or a fold, it's going to take up space, it's going to reduce the battery size, it's going to add to manufacturing complexity, drive up the price, lower the battery life. which are two fairly important features to people upgrading. This is why the iPhone XR and iPhone 11 sold so well. They don't have OLED because people don't care about that. They just see display. Looks good. Is the battery okay? Yep. All right. Sounds good. And trying to get people excited for all these crazy tech spec features it's not going to convince people. If/when a foldable iPhone happens, will you be keeping it or just reviewing it? Well, I don't know enough about it. If it was like $3,000 and real clunky and the hardware wasn't very impressive, then probably not. But I still think if Apple made a foldable, it would probably be $3,000 just because it's Apple. And they would intentionally make it as an iPhone that's not meant for everyone because they would not want it to cannibalize. Apple would probably not want that iPhone to eat into iPad sales or iPhone sales. So I feel like if Apple made a foldable, they would want it to be targeting a completely different demographic, one that is not currently being met by any other. They're like, okay, maybe if someone buys a foldable, they won't buy a Pro Max and an iPad mini, but they'll be spending a whole lot more than they would have anyway, so Apple gets more money out of you. But if they did something that was like $2,500 or $2,000 and the software was really good, the hardware was really solid, yeah, I could see myself switching to it if they got it right. It just depends. I don't know enough about it, like what the battery life would be like, or I just kind of like the idea of having a small iPad mini size display that I can pair with my Apple Watch, because currently I would love to do a iPad mini 6 like as my phone challenge where you just use that instead of an iPhone, but you can't pair your Apple Watch to your iPad, so that wouldn't work. Yeah, I don't think I would. If it was $3,000, I don't think I would keep it. That's just a lot to spend on a phone. But if I did, I would hold on to it for a long, long time. I just need to know more about it. When it's in conceptual land, it's kind of hard to justify, but they cannibalize the iPod market with the iPhone. That's right. Yeah. Apple's comfortable cannibalizing their products if they can get more money out of you. So if the foldable cannibalized the iPad, it would be because the foldable's much more than the iPad. Let's see. I've seen a couple people while at work use a Galaxy Z Fold 2, and I never see them unfold it. There you go. There's Marngel. Marngel is another, add him to the list of people I've seen that are just like, yeah, that's really, really cool, and then they just don't use the feature. So the watch needs to unlock everything. I agree. The watch should be the key to the ecosystem. It'd be so nice. Would a theoretical folding iPhone/iPad have Lightning or USB-C? He's asking the real questions now. I would hope USB-C, but how would MagSafe work? I don't know if that would even fit. A better question, I'll raise you one higher. Would a foldable iPhone that runs iPadOS when you open it have a calculator app? Or would it only have a calculator and weather app when it's closed, when you're in iOS mode? If you unfold it, it instantly deactivates the calculator and weather applications because it's not okay. Let's see. That's how we get USB-C on the iPhone. We make it fold. Desperate times. Desperate measures. Mr. Mobile says he unfolds it at home and keeps it folded on the road. I think people just don't like having to make that decision. People don't want to have two different ways to use the phone. I'm not saying everyone. I know there's people in the tech community and people that watch tech YouTubers are interested in foldables because we talk about the latest, greatest smartphones all the time, and that's fun for us. But the average consumer, they don't want to have to constantly think whenever they take their phone out of their pocket, do I want to unfold it? Do I want to fold it up? Do I want to unfold it? Do I want to... sometimes this is better. Sometimes this is better. And they just have to... Too many options is a thing. You can present someone with too many options. And I think a foldable is a good example of that. It's like everyday consumers are just like, normal phone works. It's fine. I'm not worried about the durability. Not that I think durability is a problem. It's just another moving part. It's a plastic cover on the display, and that's going to feel a little bit more fragile. Even if durability is not a problem, it's still going to be a concern for people, justified or not. In fact, at this point, I would say if the reason you don't want a foldable is because you're worried about durability, you shouldn't be worried about durability. Like, that's a bad reason to not want to buy a foldable because, honestly, they're very durable. They hold up well. They're water resistant now. I've seen Snazzy Labs videos on Twitter of how he just abuses his Z Flip all the time, and it still perfect and he doesn't have any issues with it. But even if it's not justified, people will just think, "Oh, this feels cheap," and the hinge is too many options. There's only 2. Yeah, and it's usually 0. People are used to taking it out of their pocket and not having to make any decision. Now they have to make one every time they take it out. And that's more than there needs to be. And it's a decision we do a lot. People take phones out of their pockets pretty regularly. That's a very common action. It's like if you had to decide what color, what font your text message was every time you sent a text message, there's only 2 options. Why is that so much? It's like, yeah, but it's an option that presents itself to you a lot. So what happens, like Marngel said, and it sounds like a lot of people I talk to, is they just don't open it. They don't unfold it. They don't use it for its primary feature because that's just an extra step that they don't want to have to deal with. Unfolding can be good at home to watch Insta cringy stuff. Well, if you're at home, people are just going to have a tablet or a laptop anyway. If you have most people have a larger screen, like a TV. If you're at home, you can have a 7.6-inch display for $2,000, or you can get a 60-inch display for like $400. Like, you're at home, you have access to more things. I thought the whole point of the foldable was you can take it with you on the go, but if you take it with you on the go and you don't open it, it kind of defeats the whole. And the screens on normal phones are getting pretty big now anyway. You can already get 6.7, 6.9-inch displays on non-foldables. That's pretty big. I think most people are fine with that. Scott says, as long as I can buy 2 separate devices that are better than the singular folding device for the same price, foldables aren't worth it to me. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I like my iPad, but the compromises I would have to make on my iPad to fit it in my pocket for a foldable. Like, even if I got a foldable iPhone, I would still probably want, like a 13-inch display, either or a MacBook or a bigger screen that I would use at home. I don't like the crease either. Yeah, it does kind of annoy me. Responding to a text in portrait or landscape. Yeah, exactly. Most people don't even make that decision. They just all respond in portrait. It's the same thing with foldables. People go with the easiest, laziest route. The easiest, laziest thing is to not unfold it, so they just don't. Anyway, I appreciate all the super chats. Oh, hey, Dad. He says, what about sand or debris in the screens? That's a problem, too. The new foldables are water resistant, but they are not dust resistant. So that's an issue you don't have to worry about with normal phones. Well, you probably still should, but that's a much bigger problem with foldables. But I appreciate all the super chats. You guys have been insanely generous lately. Like, what the heck? Why? But honestly, I really enjoy the live streams. I've been having a blast so far, and I hope you guys have too. Got some more videos in the works for you. Appreciate you all watching. This is your Apple Sheep here. See you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.